there, Alan Tudge. Well, my next guest this afternoon is the Shadow Minister for Families, Social Services and Indigenous Australians. I spoke to Linda Burney a little earlier. Linda Burney, welcome.
Thanks, Patricia.
Now, just in a few hours, of course, opposition leader Anthony Albanese will deliver his budget reply speech. It's a key moment for the opposition. I know childcare is going to be the centrepiece, according to, some significant Labor sources. I want to hear from you what you think the government should be doing or what Labor thinks should happen in childcare. Are you trying to make it free for lower income people? Why do you think it needs to be cheaper?
Well, childcare is incredibly expensive in Australia. Anyone that's had their children at a childcare centre, including myself, I'm sure yourself, Patricia, knows just how expensive it is. Childcare needs to be more accessible for Australian families because it's absolutely crucial that childcare is available so people can go back to work and can contribute in that circular way to the economy.
And you've been making the point in question time through that strategy and also rhetorically making the points about how this budget is essentially bad for women. Now, the government's come back and, talked about its economic security statement for women, but it's also made the point more broadly that all of its measures actually are for women too. What do you make of that argument? Because it's true. I mean, women do get the incentives if they're younger. Women do get JobKeeper. Women do get JobSeeker.
I find it almost laughable. I understand that the Prime Minister's office has been briefing out that this is a budget for women, and Minister Ruston made the statement on the radio this morning that of course it's a budget for women because women drive on roads. I mean, I don't quite understand that, but the simple fact is this, Patricia, that 61% of women who are over the age of 45 are actually the biggest group in the unemployment figures. There's something like 754,000 women who are on JobSeeker. And whilst, of course, we support young people, the simple fact is that there is a massive gap in the budget for people over the age of 35 on JobSeeker, and there is a large proportion, as I have just said, of these people that happen to be women.
You're making the point too that these incentives to hire younger workers mean that older workers, anyone over 35, will be adversely affected. Is Labor going to announce something bigger for those workers as well?
I'm not in a position to say what Labor is going to announce tonight. I know that there's been a very serious approach to the budget reply, and we are all taking it incredibly seriously, and it's an important statement that Anthony Albanese will make tonight at 7:30. But the point about young people, of course, young people are very affected by the virus, but I think that the government has really missed a major opportunity in providing incentives not just for young people, but particularly for people and women especially who are on JobSeeker and over the age of 35.
When will Labor reveal what you think that the new rate of New Start or JobSeeker should be? I mean, you've been making the point that the $40 a day isn't good enough. OK, if we accept that, what should it be?
Well, that's a very fair question. And the answer that I'll give you now is the answer that I gave a month ago, is that we have not arrived at a figure as yet on what is appropriate. We are simply calling on the government, and they missed once again the opportunity to do it in the budget on Tuesday night, that there should be a permanent increase to JobSeeker, and that reverting back to the $40 a day of the old New Start allowance is actually a disincentive, we know, for people getting a job. I mean, you know as well as I do, as do the people watching the program, that $40 a day is below the poverty line, and that's just not appropriate in a country like Australia.
Before I let you go, if we can put sort of the Indigenous affairs hat on, what do you make of the Greens' new push to put a treaty first over the Uluru Statement and then the voice to Parliament approach?
Look, I've listened very carefully to the debate, and I must say I find it quite baffling. There should not be a competition between treaty and a voice, and certainly the party that I represent, as you know, Patricia, believes in the three elements of the Uluru Statement, and Anthony Albanese has made on a number of occasions it clear that Labor supports a treaty. But let's be clear about something. A treaty doesn't happen overnight. It takes years and years to develop, and people have to be treaty ready. So calling for treaty now is really, in my view, putting the cart before the horse. I think a voice to the Parliament, which the government is walking away from, constitutionally enshrined, is incredibly important, and we have to respect what the people at Uluru requested.
I spoke to the Greens leader, Adam Bant, about this and sort of pressed him on whether there's a change in the Greens position. He said it's a grassroots movement. Is it?
I read your transcript with Adam Bant, and I found it completely confusing, and I don't think he really answered any of your questions. There is a very strong view in the community, as there has been for a long time, that treaty is important. We are seeing treaty processes take place in 3 states and territories right now. A federal treaty is important, but we need to get a voice to the Parliament in place first, enshrined in the Constitution, the establishment of a Makarrata Commission, which would then have the responsibility for developing agreements and treaty.
Linda Burney, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Patricia.
And that's the Shadow Minister for Indigenous Australians, Linda Burney. Time now for our weekly check-in with David Spears. David, budget week.